You're in limbo. You're in limbo.
Limbo, slow death, hard dreams unmet. Trials for a personal surface we walk around to regress.
All right, tonight it's another episode, a great episode, Limbo Cast. We're coming at you live from Australia, mate. We're lucky, we're happy, we're pleasured to have Tom Byrne of Valiant Hearts and Galleons. It's going to be fantastic. We're excited.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, how's it going, man?
It is going good. I guess a good way to break the ice is that we're both working on new music for both bands are working on new music at the moment.
Nice.
We're not really in isolation in Australia anymore. I think Russia is still in a bit of, a bit more of a tighter place because of the, bigger population, probably stricter laws around it. But we had very strict laws to begin with around COVID, and now things have started easing off quite a bit. Like it's been since that curve kind of flattened out, we like shops have started to reopen, like cafes and restaurants have started to take like reservations again and stuff, and everything's slowly getting back to normal here.
That's awesome.
I personally, it really didn't affect me because I work in like an isolated office at my work, and I'm like one of 3 or 4 people that were in there over the whole course of this COVID thing. So really I was very, very lucky. It didn't affect me in any way. And then other than that, we've just been working on new music in the meantime, as many other bands have. So yeah, we were at the moment, Valiant Hearts is, we're working on an acoustic EP that will, that's going to be taking songs from our first album, which is Wanderlust, and as well as songs from Odyssey. And it's going to be, it might end up being 2 split EPs. So it might be like a few tracks from Wanderlust. It'll be like a Wanderlust reimagined EP. And then it'll be like an Odyssey reimagined EP. And they'll come out at the same time. We don't have a release date yet. We haven't even started producing any of it yet. We're literally just in the demoing phase of it. But that one's been something that we wanted to do since we released Odyssey, and even further back than that. But we like reimagined EPs are sort of a thing that it's like easier to kind of sort of sometimes get in a room with someone and kind of think of how you want to like redo some things on a song, or how you want to, turn that into an acoustic piece rather than like a full arrangement of like, electric guitar, drums, and like you got to really like strip it all down and figure out where it's going to go. And that's a really, until I started working on it, I've never worked on like an acoustic EP before. You don't realize how hard it is to kind of rip all those parts out of a song and put it down to its like barest sort of thing.
Right.
And I feel like that's actually been more of a challenge than how we usually write music, which is insane because it's less. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. It's so minimalist, compared to anything.
Yeah.
Valiant Hearts, like you guys got fucking everything going on.
Yeah, well,
but I can see it, you might write to like a synth melody or whatever.
That's exactly the thing. Usually our songs are so, we try to not like pack them to the brim with instruments or musical elements. It kind of just ends up happening.
Right.
And even Odyssey was like a step back from Wanderlust. Wanderlust had a lot of layers and a lot of as some people would point out on that album, a lot of noise, I guess. A lot of elements to take in. Like it's a bit of a harsh first listen on some tracks because there's so many background melodies going on, so many synth melodies going on top of lead guitars, on top of rhythm guitars. There was a lot going on with that album, and I think we learnt a lot from just listening back to that album after a while. Like you'll take times as a musician where you don't listen to one of your albums for a long time, and then you'll listen back to it again, and you'll see like you'll either be like, what the fuck was I thinking? Or you'll think like, how did I do that? Like there's some songs that I love on Wonderlust that I'm like, how the fuck did I even like, because it's weird. Like it's been 2 years now since we wrote Wonderlust, and then some of like my voice has changed a lot since Wonderlust. Wonderlust, I don't know whether it's subconscious or it's on purpose, but like my dad is from the USA, so like I pick up like a bit of an American accent from him sometimes. So like I sing subconsciously with like a bit of an accent, I guess, that I wouldn't usually have if I was like Australian, like just pure Australian. So like it's strange that my voice has changed so much from Wonderlust to Odyssey. Like I use more lower tones now than I did in Odyssey. I would always try to go for really high notes and shit when I was writing that album, and just like trying to go sort of like as high as I could, which was sort of inspired by stuff that I used to listen to, like Sleeping with Sirens and Hands Like Houses and Emarosa and stuff like that. And usually like a lot of their songs, they'd like, you just go really fucking high in the choruses and just most sort of impact that you can. But what I learned in Odyssey was it was for me now as someone that writes vocals, it's like I've been listening to like a lot of, and I know heaps of vocalists probably say that they do like but like lots of different stuff that's not in this genre. Like I listen to a lot of like R&B now, like all that sort of stuff, but I've always listened to that, but I think really now I've started like to break down how all that stuff works, and you learn more as you go. But like I've realized that melody is always going to be sort of for our music anyway, is going to be more important than just trying to sing as high as high as I can, or trying to just like force out like a chorus or something like that. So
right.
Yeah, it's very yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is that in the last 2 years since writing Wonderlust, like I've like of course you like change a lot as a person between like 2 years, but like as my writing style and my singing style, I guess, has changed a bit. Like I've gone more from being inspired by a vocalist like Trenton Woodley from Hands Like Houses to being like, because when I first started singing, I fucking loved Hands Like Houses is kind of like what pushed me to get into music. I love that, like their first album was just, and like I would try to like sing those songs and fail miserably until like I started getting down how vocals worked and how the mechanics of the voice worked and stuff like that. But no, I've started realizing that my voice is more in line with people like Johnny Craig and sort of his like lower style of singing. And he can still go really fucking high, but like he kind of stays in that sort of mid range. I'm more comfortable in that range. Or like Garrett Rapp from the Color Morale. Like I have a lower voice, so it's easier for me to sing lower than higher. But yeah, like it's I'll let you guys say some stuff in case I'm talking too much here.
Hey man, it's all good, brother.
Seriously, this is why we're here. Honest to God, it's
yeah. But yeah, like it's weird. It's so weird to think back to 2 years ago and be like, and listen to that album from 2 years ago and be like, fuck, that doesn't, like, part of it doesn't even sound like me anymore. It's strange. It still does. It's still very easy to tell that it's the same person, but it's like some of the songs from Wonderlust, like I'm like, how the fuck would I sing that now? Like because I have like the mechanics of my voice and how I approach like singing certain notes now have changed. Like it's kind of hard for me to even explain because I'm not.
So
like, singing.
Do you think that you could like go back and just totally fucking crush a song you were struggling with on a Wonderlist, or do you think that now you're like too far gone that you do it in such a different way that you'd be like, hell, I can't go back there?
I don't know. There's some songs like There's No Ice in Iceland, which I'm surprised no one has ever mentioned this, but that name is like inspired by the Chiodo song There's No Penguins in Alaska. And I've never heard anyone point that out, and it's so strange. Like I guess that's from their first like Chiodos album, so I'm not sure if many people really like a lot of people still remember it. I'm sure that listened to it back then, but I'm not sure if many people that like that was like an album from like 2007 maybe 2008 maybe. So like I'm sure that there's not like a lot of cross, people that come across that album and then come across our stuff that know both that would really see that reference. But in 2 years or so, I'm very surprised that it's not been mentioned once. And I'm kind of thankful for it as well, because sorry, I'm going off on a complete tangent. To answer your question, I think that there's some songs on Wanderlust that would be much easier for me to do now, just knowing that I've grown as a vocalist and I've learnt more things and how to use my voice better and how not to, like, how to push it in the right way instead of the wrong way. I had so many times where, like, I could do like a full 4-hour recording session today, and then I could like go to work tomorrow, talk at work all day, come home and do another 4-hour recording session. But like, you got to be really fucking careful with how you sing, especially in this genre. I think some of the songs on Wanderlust that I'd be able to crush now would be, it's honestly a tough choice, but I think like songs like maybe like Thrive is kind of an easy song to sing. There's just a lot of layers to it. So like if that was ever to be performed live, like we would either need like a backing vocalist, or we would need a backing track for some of the melodies that go on in the background, because there's just too many overlapping layers in that song. That's another thing that I learned too with working on Odyssey, that I've learned to scale back how many overlapping layers that I do, like in terms of my vocals, because if these songs are ever to be performed live, because we don't perform live right now, it's just way too fucking hard, with having Igor in Russia and then me in Australia, literally on almost polar ends of the earth.
Right.
Yeah, the logistics of that would be it's impossible.
Insane.
Yeah.
Like we've done a budget up for it, and I'll say that it's over. I think it ended up being close to 20 grand just to even book like one show in like taking him from maybe doing like a run of shows in Russia. It was about like almost like 20 grand just like in terms of flights, like me getting there and back, like equipment, hiring live members to perform on like drums, lead guitar, anything like that. And it was just as expensive for him to come over here. And in no way in comparison, just to make it clear, about 20 grand to settle that up. It costs us about working with our current producer, which is really great. With all like just production costs, it costs us about maybe 7 to 8 grand to make an actual album, right? Wow. So it would cost us double or upwards of double of the cost of. We could make almost 3 albums. Yeah, we could make almost 3 albums. In the time and the cost it would take to play just a few live shows. And like we write constantly as well. So we could produce like 3 albums and get those out into the world. Or we could, play a couple shows in Russia where we might not get anyone even come to them just for like 20 grand.
Yeah, that just seems like a lot of money to just throw in.
That's mind-boggling. Like,
it
really,
is, yeah. And being part of a label that might, not that we want to be part of a label, but bands that are part of a label, the label will front them a lot of those costs. But it still works out to be a loan in a sense. I'm not sure if there's interest put on those loans that the label gives, but like the band has to pay that money to the label. That's how it works.
That's right.
So usually we like being independent because if we need any cost needs to be paid, it's lucky that me and Igor both have good jobs. Like I do graphic design time, and that pays my bills and allows us to make music, which is good. But like if there's for any reason that we need a larger sum of money to do anything like a label would give a band to go on tour, booking costs, managerial costs, any of that sort of stuff, I would just go to the bank and I would just get a personal loan, because not only am I not going to have someone breathing down my neck other than, like a bank, but they're always asking.
They're always there for something.
Anyway, I feel like a label is good for those that need it for that sort of thing. But for us, we're not only more comfortable having the freedom to be able to do whatever the fuck we want, when we want, not have to worry about someone telling us how to work our marketing schedule. Like I work in marketing as well, so I'm good with all of that stuff too. And I just feel like not being part of a label gives us the freedom to sort of mold the band into exactly what we want in our own time without having to worry about anyone having a different opinion on sort of a management side. And we're always going to do what we think is best for the band, kind of regardless of public opinion. And we hope, we still have people agree with us in the direction that we take our music. But, bands that join labels, they do it for a very good reason. And they do it because that's what is going to suit them. And also labels have the capability, as long as they're like a proper label and they have like a good, they have good marketing. They have like quite a few people that, know who they are, brand recognition, all that sort of stuff. Labels usually will be better to join for bands that don't exactly know how to market themselves, and then the label will give them the boost that they need to be seen by the world, right? And that's a really good thing for bands that are trying to figure out how to market themselves and how to do all that stuff and might not yet know how, so they join a label, and the label does that all for them, and it takes that sort of off their plate, and then they can kind of see how it all works, and over time they get a better idea of it. But for me, coming into music, I kind of already, I come from a marketing background, so I kind of already knew where I wanted to take things. I knew, I kind of knew to play off, because for Valiant Hearts at least, we were already going for Hands Like Houses sort of sound. So I knew how to play off that sort of demographic. I knew how to get them interested. And that really worked in our favor. Now, especially with Odyssey and how that's kind of, that's the numbers that Odyssey has gone to are fucking insane for me. I couldn't even imagine getting, I think it's sitting at 2.1 million streams now, and I couldn't even imagine that when we first started. It's if you know what you're doing, that's what I would say is, if you know what you're doing in terms of a marketing sense, and you know where you want to take your band, you know what kind of people you want to get interested in your band, I would say just maybe give it a year and try to take an EP release. An EP would probably be the safest thing to do, because it's less tracks, it would cost less to make. You can really just make sure every fucking song on the EP is a banger, and then
keep that
and then
shit
put that EP
solid
out
for sure.
Exactly. Just make that one EP as tight as possible, and then if you kind of know who you're going for, and you know the audience that you're going for, you know how to use all your marketing tools. You got fucking Facebook, Instagram, Spotify
Twitter,
has ads now,
shit,
Twitter, everything. You know how to set everything up. You know how to work it all. You know who you need to approach. You know who you need to get in touch with. Even if you don't have a press list or anything like that, if you know the press places that will be beneficial to you, just keep fucking sending them emails. If they get annoyed by you or they tell you that they're not interested, back off. Maybe try to talk to someone else that that might be part of that industry. Hit them up on social media. Just ask if they're interested in listening to anything that you've done. Even one message sometimes can just go a long way. You don't really know who's gonna actually be interested, and you might be very surprised by who you talk to.
Yep.
But yeah, absolutely. If there's any people out there that listen to this that are interested in actually going the independent route, or trying to start off in the independent route, put out a small piece of music first. Do your best at marketing it and getting some good PR behind it. Even if you're doing that PR yourself, just have a good. I think for Odyssey had the only PR we really did for Odyssey is that we brought it to Dreambound, and Dreambound it fucking is amazing for bands like us. They're doing some fucking amazing work over there. And that is what made that album blow up. So really, it really only takes one very well-placed point of PR to make your music kind of I'm not talking that we've fucking exploded and we're anywhere close to huge as a band, but
my
expectations have been more than Met, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you just see you hit like 2 million streams on Odyssey. Like that's for an independent band. That's
Yeah,
huge.
it's nuts.
That's
it's
huge
nuts.
numbers, man.
So
And
we
then-
get out.
ridiculous.
And then
We
Tom,
get out- what's that,
for
sorry?
like, oh, sorry, Tom, just saying for the streams and that and everything, are you guys finding you're more, I guess the audience is coming from Europe, overseas? Because, you know, for me to find it in North America, I just kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah, I can actually check that right now. I'll just go to the artists thing on Spotify.
Yeah, there you go.
but-
The stats.
Yeah, but from what I remember, I think it's very ironic that a very few of our listeners actually come from Australia, and then at the same time, like a lot of our listeners come from Russia, not Russia, sorry, from the USA.
Okay.
And I found it very funny that we get like no one from Australia, even though we're, you know, I'm Australian and I kind of have tried to market it to a lot of people in Australia, but it's, yeah, of course the USA has the bigger population, and Canada as well. You guys have a much bigger population than Australia. So of course the numbers there are going to be much more easy to find. But if I look at the audience here, let's see. Yeah, United States is number one. So we have, 32,000.
Nice.
More than half of our listeners are in the USA, and then we have Germany, and then we have the United Kingdom. Australia is number 4. Canada's right after Australia at number 5. And then it starts to dip down in numbers there from there. So it's like Brazil, Mexico, France, Sweden. But yeah, absolutely more like USA, Canada, Europe oriented than the Southern Hemisphere. So yeah, it's very interesting to look at all that stuff. And
Yeah, that is interesting.
yeah, just another point for that sort of like independent stuff. You need to be looking at stats like all the fucking time, because that's how you're going to figure out who is listening. So yeah, make sure that you're always looking at your stats. Like once a week is pretty good. And especially if you're coming up to a release, and you don't have any stats yet, the best way to figure out who your audience is by looking at other bands that are similar to yours. And I'm not sure if there's a way to figure out what their demographic is, but kind of, I guess if they're like a band from the US, or if they're a band from Australia, usually regardless, the USA is the biggest consumer of at least this genre of music. You guys in Canada and the USA, we're always seeing your numbers at almost the very top of our like statistics.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys are always a very safe bet to kind of market music towards, because you're especially as an English speaking band, if you're not an English speaking band, then of course you probably do want to market more towards your country or your language, but being an English speaking band, it's really like sometimes the options are limitless. Like we can market to pretty much anywhere. I mean, I personally listen to a lot of music from Japan, like a lot of metalcore from Japan and stuff like that. And the language barrier isn't an issue at all for me. So I'm guessing it's not for a lot of other people as well. But yeah, like it's crazy to see just how far reaching your music can be, especially in this day and age with, Spotify, Apple Music, all that sort of stuff. It's fucking nuts. It's like just reaching people on your guys' side of the earth, being like a 2-person band, me from Australia, Igor from Russia. It's like, we never imagined that it would, like, we thought we'd be done after Wonderlust, like no one would give a shit. And then we're just like, oh, fuck it, we'll write one more, see what happens. And then if that one doesn't take off, we'll try something else, go a different direction, try a different sound or something like that. But yeah, for Valiant Hearts, that's really like what we tried to do though. Like Valiant Hearts was the first band that I really, because the sound was so specific, I knew exactly where I wanted to take it, and I knew exactly how I wanted to market it. Galleons, on the other hand, was a bit trickier. Like we started off, Galleons is the first band that I was ever part of. So we started that in 2015, me and Max. I had like a YouTube cover channel where I was doing really, really awful covers. I will not lie. They're bad.
Are some of these still up and available?
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
I think it's like my YouTube channel was like Tom Byrne VC or some shit, and they're just awful, but it shows progress, which is good. But Galleons was way, way harder to figure out the audience for. Like, because even Dance Gavin Dance have only taken off since maybe like Instant Gratification. So like Acceptance Speech, when Tillian joined the band, they had they were coming back to the scene after like being gone for like one or two years, or maybe it was longer, I'm not sure, but like yeah, you can see like Dance Gavin Dance being sort of like not the leader of this, like the post-hardcore or, you know, that sort of scene at the moment, but they're one of the biggest bands in this scene right now, and it's because they found their niche, I guess, because they know exactly who they're playing for now, and they know exactly what people want to hear, and that's a good thing. That's what you want to find. So with Galleons, I've sort of taken that as a way to figure out who our audience is. And it really helps, like I said, looking at other bands that are doing it really well and trying to see, trying to kind of decode and deconstruct what they did to get there, so you can kind of not repeat it, but like apply it to your own project. And Dance Gavin Dance, they started, like Tillian came in, they started back with Acceptance Speech, and then they really hit it off with like regardless of your opinion on the album, they started to get a lot more traction with their follow-up, which was Instant Gratification. And then since then it just snowballed. So they really kind of they really found their audience of who they wanted to hit with IG. And then, you know, it kind of went from there. As long as you can keep that sort of going, that's the important thing. Like if you find that you want to like stop making music for like a year or two, like after you release an album that kind of like goes really well, like what's a good example? Like I guess like Pierce the Veil, they haven't released any music in a while, and I think not that they've been like forgotten about, but they've really, it's harder to come back from an absence than it is to, you know, just release consistent music, I guess. But like unless like things are happening in people's personal lives and all that shit, like it's very hard.
Sure, and I find like if somebody's releasing something and it might not come across as maybe good or what people expected, and as long as you consistently release it, you can bounce back from something like that.
Exactly. Because like for me personally, I loved Acceptance Speech for Dance Gavin Dance a lot more than I liked Instant Gratification. But then they came out swinging again the year after Instant Gratification with Mothership and blew the fuck away, like blew everyone away. So it's like you can always come back from, if you have like a release that doesn't go as well as you thought, or doesn't get, like public opinion isn't as strong, like as positive towards it as you wanted or anything like that. It doesn't fucking matter. I think like Anthony Fantano did a video on this recently where he said like how to stop yourself from being discouraged when like your music release doesn't go the way that you wanted it to. And he had so many good points in that video where it's like, yeah, if something doesn't go your way, it doesn't mean give up. It means learn from it and do it better next time. Right. Or, you know, or not necessarily give people what they want, but do it, you know, like learn from the mistake, realize what people didn't like, and either don't repeat that again or try to improve upon it. So, because it might just be either you're going to have a stinker or you're going to have something that's almost there and people are just a little like disappointed by it, or you might have a great release. There's always going to be like that middle ground. And, right. You know, if you put out something that's just awful, it's going to be very obvious because you're just going to get people shitting on it every day, and you're going to be like, oh, you're going to feel bad for sure. You're going to feel really bad for sure, because there's always a human behind the music. But at the same time, that's the case in point for, you know, wanting to improve your music. That's the only way you're going to learn. Like even with Odyssey, like a lot of the tracks, like a lot of one of the main pieces of criticism we got was that some of the tracks have like song structures that are a little too similar to each other, and that we could have like, you know, changed the song structures up a bit. Wanderlust had a lot more variation in its song structures, and that was, I feel like, kind of a bit more of a good thing. But you know, at the same time, we wanted a more consistent and solid album for Odyssey that had, you know, maybe not too weird on the song structure front, not too weird on the not too noisy, not too many elements going on.
Right. What I
And I
found
think that
was
really,
that you didn't stray from it. It was really polished, and once you listen from
yeah.
start to finish, you're like, I get it, I understand it.
Mm.
Whereas, like, I did give Wanderlust, I've heard a couple times. Like, I was fully invested in Odyssey because that's the first one I've heard, and I
Yeah.
fucking fell in
Yeah.
love with it. And I'm like, this is great. And then I go back and listen to Wanderlust. I'm like, I hear the progression, and it's hard for
Yeah.
me to listen to that album afterwards because of how much I like what you did with Odyssey. Whereas other people, if they've heard the first one and went to the second one, they might not have the same type of criticisms that I would, because I'm like, Odyssey's fucking perfect. What are you talking about?
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's weird because with Wanderlust took us that took us a shorter amount of time to write than Odyssey. I think it might have been around the same time. So these Odyssey and Wanderlust may have like taken around the same time to write. But at the same time, Wanderlust has production that isn't as good as Odyssey, so a lot of people have that as a gripe. And then it's a bit of Wanderlust is a bit of a weirder album. It's got a lot more elements going on. It's got a lot more of unpolished ideas. It's got some stuff that we really kind of just like. Wanderlust was kind of us just like getting the whole kitchen sink and throwing it in, like throwing it. Sorry, the phrase is throwing everything in, including the kitchen sink. But yeah, like Odyssey was me going to Igor and going like this needs to be as consistent and as solid as we can make it with our current knowledge of this sort of music. So what we did, we basically just wrote like a bunch of demos, and then we focused on making those demos as structurally solid and sort of as catchy as possible without trying to overbake them. So I tried to not put too many elements in. I tried to not do too many layers. I tried to just keep, in terms of melody construction, I tried to just keep myself very constrained to figuring out what fit where and not trying to like overlay that with like another melody or like putting like too many harmonies in. Like it just came down to not wanting to kind of make an album that was a mess. We just wanted to make a really clean album.
Right.
And I feel like I feel like we did that, which is good. It's what we wanted to do. So for what we're thinking about doing next after Odyssey, obviously we're doing the acoustic stuff, which is going to be just like a bit of a break for us, just doing something nice and easy.
Well, it didn't sound like you said it was going to be too easy. Hey, it comes with its challenges too, hey?
Easy, I guess easy for me in terms of singing. I don't have to scream too much.
Right.
But in saying that, the new demos that I've been working on, I've been with Odyssey, the song Mesmer, that was the first time I'd ever actually done any screaming on a record, on any song for that matter. And I've learnt a fuck ton about screaming and the mechanics of screaming since then, about like how to control pitch better, about how to get more depth and projection out of a scream and all that sort of stuff. And I've been doing in terms of like writing stuff for Galleons, I've been doing all the demo screams and all the demo writing for the screams for us, which will then be replaced by our screamer. So in final production, since he's better than I am at screaming still. He's been doing it for a much longer time than I have, but like I've been really enjoying learning to put new elements into both Valiant Hearts songs and Galleon songs recently, like screaming, and finding a good place for it. Like not like with Hands Like Houses and Dissonance, they really only use screaming. Like if you go back and listen to that album, Trenton only screams really in the final bridge of some of the songs. Like they really don't sort of like pepper it throughout the song and use it for different impactful. They do sometimes, like the song I Am, and then New Romantics. He has some parts that are like almost like screams that are like really just very distorted notes where he'll like do that. But I really want to find a way to not take Valiant Hearts in like a metalcore direction. It's still going to be very heavily post-hardcore. Mm-hmm. But I guess you'll start to see it more influenced by stuff like I think some of the references that I've given Igor for like in terms of like the sound that I want for like a third album, bands like Chiodos, so like and not Craig Owens Chiodos, unfortunately. That wasn't really my thing. My thing was Chiodos with their sort of I guess what you'd call second singer or fill-in singer, which was Brandon Bolmer, who was the singer on the album Illumin Audio, and that's like one of my fucking favorite albums of all time. I think it was like a bit contentious when it first came out because it didn't have Craig Owens on it, but I think since then it's actually gone on to become a bit of a cult classic in their discography, and in my opinion, their best album. So like that album is very the song Medusa on Odyssey, that was inspired by Chiodos for me. So that was a very sort of like orchestral and sort of symphonic song, or like had symphonic arrangements that are very similar to what Chiodos had on Illumin Audio. And I sort of tried to sing it in similar ways as well. That song was also very inspired by Medusa. It was very inspired by the song The Frame One by Either Mighty as well. So it had like a lot of weird sort of stuff going into it, a lot of weird ideas going into it, and that's actually one of my favorite songs on the album. So yeah, I think a lot more of what I want to do for album 3 is kind of take that sort of solid and polished direction that we had for Odyssey, but like go back to adding in a bit more of the weird ideas that we have. Like what I was saying before, the two bands I think that I've given as the biggest point of reference for new music is like, yeah, Chiodos and Alaska with Alaska with the Z. Okay. So like, it'd sort of be, I guess if we're thinking of how those two would mix, it would sort of be like a poppier sort of direction, similar to Alaska or Slaves, but with, I guess, more symphonic elements added in, and probably some weirder songs scattered throughout the track list of that third album. But yeah, it's very early talks at the moment for new music in terms of a third album.
It sounds enticing. It sounds really cool. Well, like what I was thinking, getting back to some of the scream stuff there, is I don't want people to think like, oh yeah, this is like a post-hardcore band that screams, yells. Like you pick your spots with it, right? Like it's not everywhere in every song, and that's what I really like about it, because there was a time I felt like mid 2000s where like the post hardcore music just kind of got really stale and bland, whereas now the sounds that I'm hearing from people, I'm really finding there's a lot more creativity with it, and I just think people are like really enjoying it again and doing something different.
Yeah, so am I. I'm getting the same vibe. Like I stopped really kind of diving into the post hardcore and even metalcore a bit around maybe like 2013, 2014. And I only started to come back to it after maybe like 2016, 2017, after I started working with Galleons more, and from 2015. But yeah, like my golden age of post-hardcore was like 2009, 2010, maybe like, I think the last sort of one that I really enjoyed was in around 2012 with Ground Dweller from Hands Like Houses. And then I just listened to that for fucking like years, maybe. Like I still listen to it to this day. Or really just Hands Like Houses in general. So they had like Unimagined and Dissonance. I think Dissonance was really the one where I like, that was like 2014, 2015, maybe. I'm not sure. Might have been, no, it was later than that. I think it was maybe like 2016. I don't remember. But that was really, I've really only like cherry picked very specific bands from post-hardcore and metalcore recently that I've really sort of been into. And I'm like you, I'm finding that I'm listening to a lot more of it now with these more recent bands that are starting to do interesting things with it again. And they're giving us like more ideas as well. So that kind of like creativity and I think all these like sort of catchy and in some cases weirder ideas and more progressive ideas are coming back into post-hardcore again to kind of, push it forward. And Dance Gavin Dance have honestly been pioneers of that for years now. And they've, been adding in more new weird ideas and different sounds to their music, which has been kind of like, giving a lot of other people more ideas as well, I think. But there's a few bands in particular, like Alaska, like Slaves, that have been, more on the poppier side that I really like. And those ones are probably more relatable to me in terms of vocal style. But Alaska I fucking love that album that they released in 2019, maybe 2018. Their album Phoenix, because that's just like an album that's just like a solid track list, just full of like awesomely catchy songs from start to finish. And there's a lot of variation in those songs as well. So like a lot of them have very different sort of song structures and song styles and atmospheres. And I think that was just a really, really, really solid album. And that's like, in terms of like something that we want to achieve, yeah, we believe that Odyssey was solid, but we want something that really, something that we can really fit all of our ideas into, that's not too overblown. It feels like sort of like just right. It feels just right that we have, because and still has like the level of catchiness and solidness in terms of being an album that we want. But yeah, it's like, it's very difficult to kind of pin down right now, because there's so many ideas flying back and forth. And whatever I say on this like right now could like change drastically in like 3 months time. So
yeah, sure. And like with what you're planning, what you're doing, has there been any challenges with the music you're trying to create? Because like you're coming from a place where you guys are like, anybody who you're working with, it seems like they're all over the place, like in the world, literally.
Yeah, like any challenges? Yeah, I guess like the people, it's so funny that people have been like starting to realize that working remotely on music is not as hard as they thought. Like I remember watching like the Bring Me the Horizon like the isolation things, that the videos that they've been doing. They're like, we never thought until now that like working remotely on music could be done. And I'm like, we've been doing it since like 2015. So it was just funny to see everyone kind of finally realize and catch up that you could make music when you're not in the same room together. But people think that's a challenge for us. It's actually one of the easiest things to do.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would have assumed that was just kind of tricky. Yeah. And I was wondering if you guys ever really get the opportunity to get together and make music.
No, I've never met.
Okay, wow.
Never met any of the guys in either of my bands.
That's incredible.
I would love to one day, but yeah, just costs a lot to get over to Russia. And no, that's actually, yeah, people often think that is the biggest challenge with, how our bands are set up. But it's, as long as you get along with the people that you're working with, and you all have the same sort of vision that you want to achieve, it's so fucking easy. It's just like talking to any other friend that you have online and just sending files back and forth between each other, going like, does this work? All right, doesn't work. Let's try something else. Do you like this melody? Like I might do like 20 versions of a melody for a chorus. And then like, we might go back to like version number 5 and we might be like, no, that one's good. So it's like, we just send a bunch of versions of songs to each other. And then we're like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. And we kind of just put it together like a puzzle. And then in the meantime, between that, we just talk like friends and it's great. But yeah, I think the challenges always come down to at first, because, Igor and then all my guys in Galleons, they weren't like native English speakers to begin with. So very early in our lifetimes as bands, like 2015, 2016, maybe even into early 2017, like the guys in Galleons have been learning like English like fucking crazy. Like they're so good. Like something like, I'm pretty sure Max, our guitarist, has corrected me on more English than I've corrected him on. So yeah, it's insane. Like they've learned so much, and I feel bad because I don't know any fucking Russian.
Just the swears, right? Just the swears.
Just the swear words. Yeah, that's all you need to know. But yeah, that was probably a big challenge when we first started the bands, because trying to explain ideas of where you want to take a song in terms of like atmosphere, in terms of like sound, is very difficult when you can't, like when the difficulty understanding English grammar and like English sentences. So it's like that we would have to do it is like, I would just have to keep my sentences very, very short, and then just like send a link to like a song that I like. And I'm like, let's do something like this. Or like take like an element similar to this and like add that into a song, or like a drum pattern, or like a riff that's similar to this, and do something like, yeah, try to like rework that into get a sort of vibe like that going. It's very hard to explain that when you can only use very limited words. But lucky like Igor and the guys in Galleons have you know, like I said, I feel bad because I haven't done much to learn their language, but they have progressed so far in learning how to talk to me that it's honestly humbling that they want to work that hard together to make this music, that they're willing to, like, you know, learn a whole nother fucking language to do it.
Yeah, and how the hell did you guys connect to begin with?
Yeah, how did you guys meet?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I had a cover channel on YouTube, and Max, our guitarist in Galleons, he messaged me on YouTube back in 2015 or late 2014, and just said, you know, I got 3 demos. Do you want to try singing on them? And I'm like, yeah. Like, I've never sung an original song or written an original song before, but fuck it, yeah, why not? So that was for Galleons, that was a Kodiak Soul EP where I had literally no idea what I was doing. Like I was clueless. I had no idea how to record myself. I had no idea how to construct a melody. I had no idea how to do literally anything in terms of music. I still to this day am not great with musical notation or compositions. Like, I can't read music for shit, but somehow that has progressed into me being able to write all the string arrangements or most of the string arrangements, like the symphonic strings and the orchestral strings on the entirety of Odyssey. So somehow,
yeah, well, I don't think you should go around telling people what you can't do, because I'm kind of annoyed and frustrated with how goddamn talented you are and how well everything came out. It's amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, like so we work in a program called anyway, I'll finish what I was saying before I start on something else. So yeah, I met Max that way, and then we worked on Kodiak Soul together. I'm the one that pitched the name Galleons because I was watching fucking Harry Potter or something at the time, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool name, actually. And then yeah, went from there, and then we did just a few singles, and we were trying to, like, you know, that was around the time when, like, the world was coming out with the idea that singles and releasing consistent music was the way to go, and that albums were dead. And everyone's still saying that, like, oh no, albums are dead. Like, just release singles and shit every now. And I'm like, albums aren't dead. Just as long as you're releasing consistent content, that's all that matters. Like, if you like Dance Gavin Dance, if you release like an album a year, or like an album every, like, I don't know, like year and a half, like, people are still going to be interested. They're still going to be like, and you maybe like release a single like every now and then, like, you are still going to keep people interested, because as long as it's good music, they're going to keep listening to it over and over again, and then wait for you to release more music because they're that invested in it. So the only thing you really need to do is make people invested in your music. After that, as long as you're releasing consistently, it doesn't matter. You don't have to release like a single a month. Like, I think we were at a point with Galleons where we were like, we had that mindset where we were like, okay, we got to like release a single a month, or we got to release a single every 2 months to keep people interested. And I'm like, I never completely agree with that mindset. I definitely agree with it to a degree, as I was just saying before, but I always feel like, even maybe it's my way, maybe I'm just like an old, I'm still caught and stuck in my ways of thinking of, you know, how I used to consume music and stuff like that. But I've definitely come around to like this way of thinking as well. But my way of thinking is that as long as it's a good song, we put effort into it, and we, you know, it's catchy, and it's something that I would listen to personally, and it's like something that I think other people would want to listen to, and we release it still consistently. It doesn't have to be like every month or like every 2 months. It could be like one every, like, I think we started doing like one every 3 months, just so we could get it all properly recorded, all properly produced, all that sort of stuff. Because like even the production side of it takes a little while. You have so many like changes that you might want, or so many reasons to, you know, you might go back to part of the song and change part of it that you don't like. It's just like, you know, give yourself the breathing room to be able to work on a song until you're happy with it, and then release it. But like also kind of like try to give yourself a deadline for how consistently you think you should be releasing songs. So yeah, that's kind of what we did with Galleons for a little while. That was in about like 2016, 2017. And then I think in 2017, we like stopped releasing singles, and we actually worked on a full-length album, which was Dream Machines. And that was like our first actual go. And it was actually a period there where I was still having a lot of trouble writing, and I was actually being very stubborn. I was having a lot of trouble writing melodies for some of our songs, because, you know, like coming from coming from a background where I had only experience in doing covers, and then being asked to work on math rock and mathcore songs by someone. Mathcore and math rock songs are like, you know, the time signatures are fucking all over the place. Like they change consistently. They're not change consistently. They change like a lot of times throughout the song. Like, so from no experience to like basically working on like a progressive rock song or math rock song is like going from like, I don't know, high school science to fucking rocket science at NASA, right?
Yeah, that's quite the way to put it, for sure. It just sounds legit.
Yeah, it's jumping from like no musical knowledge at all to suddenly being able to sing to like a 7/9 or like a, you know, like a really off time signature. So like there was a point there where I was being very stubborn, and I'm like, no, I can get this. I can get something catchy down. I can do something. I don't need anyone else to help me, like another vocal producer or another melody writer to help. Like I just need to learn how to do it for myself, which in the end, being stubborn, I'm kind of glad I was stubborn, because it forced me to learn how to write to that sort of music. But I think it early in the lifespan of Galleons, it like pissed Max off quite a bit, and he just got fed up with me and decided to just like leave the band for a little while. And then he was like, I can't put up with it. Like you're just being too stubborn. Just like, let's bring someone else in. So eventually, when we started working on Dream Machines, me and Eugene, our guitarist in the band as well, we wrote the song Dream Machines that's the first track on that album. And I don't know whether it was Eugene's writing style. It was a bit more, maybe like a little less chaotic. But it was quite a bit melodic as well. That it just helped me think of a very kind of solid melody for that song. And he showed that to Max, and that got Max back on board. He's like, look, you can actually, you know, write stuff. And he can actually like get something down. And then from there, everything's been good. We've, you know, never really, now if we ever have an argument, we're just like, we try to, as much as possible, to see it from the other's point of view. And we're like, okay, why don't you agree with me on this? Why is it such a point of contention? Is it really something to be getting this pissed off about or arguing over? And a lot of the time, no, there's no point in arguing over it. We're just both very stubborn people. So yeah, I guess in a very roundabout way, that answers your question of how Galleons found me. And then Valiant Hearts, Igor found me by, I think it was after we released Dream Machine. No, God, it wasn't even released after we released Dream Machines. Far out, time flies. It was after we released like the original version of one of our singles, I think, for Galleons. Igor hit up Max, and then he just asked if I was interested in working on a Hands Like Houses type song, which was Watercolor from our first EP from New Soul. And that was the first style of song that I really fucking got into. Like I was really able to, like, you know, sink my teeth in, because it was not as chaotic. It wasn't a math rock song. It was just like a pure post-hardcore song that I was used to singing along to. And I had a lot more ideas for it than something that changes time signatures every 8 bars. Like it was way easier for me to wrap my head around. So yeah, we worked on New Soul on Watercolor first, and then we worked on Bastion, and those were the two songs that we did. And then our producer that made those 2 songs, I regret this in hindsight, but our producer that made produced those 2 songs, who also produced Odyssey, we worked with him again later. Roman, he produced he did the vocal mix. Sorry, we already had the instrumentals. We just needed them to be mixed vocally. So he did the vocal mix for Watercolor and Bastion. But then he had to go on to another project. We didn't really like schedule anything with him properly. And we've learned that now, that you need to schedule things with people, otherwise they will not happen, and you'll have to wait a long time until you'll be able to finish a project. So we finished Watercolor and Bastion, and then he said, okay, I gotta go work on something else. I won't be available for a few months. And we wanted to release this in like the next month, the new Soul EP. So I'm like, all right, I can probably have a crack at mixing the vocals on the rest of the songs, and I very much regret that decision. Because we tried to find more producers. We tried to find other producers in Russia. Really, we had no money at that point. We had $0 to kind of work on the production side of things. I wasn't in work at that point. I was still at university, and I was, eating ramen every fucking night as a university student does. Not to knock it. I still eat it tonight. I still
fucking do.
I fucking
yeah.
love it. I fuck with ramen still.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we basically had no way to get it produced with no budget. So what I did was I spent a long time trying to figure out how vocal mixing works, and I've gotten a lot better with it as the years have gone on. And my demos, I'm actually getting much happier with the vocal mixing in my demos. Not to say that I could, do it on an actual record, but I'm much happier with where I am now than where I was. But I really should not have tried to mix the rest of that EP myself. That's why we put it up on Bandcamp for free, like 100% free, pay what you want. I just felt, it was almost like an album of demos almost. So we were like, no, I'm not going to make people pay for that. Like there's no reason for them to pay for something that's like of subpar quality. It's also our first foray into that band. So I'm not going to, it's not going to be like some big thing that we're going to like market. I'm just going to put it out there, test the waters, see if people are interested in those first 2 songs that were actually produced properly. And those ones will probably have the most staying power on the album anyway. And then in the future, like we're still thinking about remastering that whole EP. So that could definitely be something that happens, but that might not be until like after the 3rd album comes out, because we want to do this acoustic EP, and then we want to start working on the 3rd album because we've got a lot of ideas that we want to get out of our head before we go back to anything that we've already done. So yeah, we think that's a pretty fair way of doing it. Like it's definitely on the table. But yeah, we want to kind of tread new ground before we start going backwards. We don't feel like our discography is really fleshed out enough yet to be going back to stuff that we did only 3 years ago. Right. So yeah, we definitely want to sink our teeth into some more new stuff before anything else.
Yeah, you're moving forward with it, and I hear like a lot of stuff happening. But also, I'd like to go back just quickly and just say like how interesting it was. You touched on briefly a little bit how you used to consume music as opposed to moving forward, and how you're getting used to doing it now. Like how was it for you back then, and like how are things changing for you?
So I still do things a little bit the same of how I used to consume music. Like I didn't really start listening to music like avidly listening to it until like I really found like Emarosa and that those sort of post-hardcore bands back in like 2009, 2008. Like before then I wasn't really into music that much until I really found the niche of what I liked, like really melodic music, really emotional and passionate sort of rock music, because I didn't really like the general radio rock like I love the Foo Fighters now, but I didn't really like it back then. Like that's sort of like really sort of more radio friendly rock. I wasn't into that. I think the first bands that I ever got into were from my brother. He like played Alexis on Fire in the car one day, and I think it was what's the song? This Could Be Anywhere in the World, and that I think that made me realize what sort of music like that was out there, because I found Alexis on Fire. Before that, I'm pretty sure I started off with Linkin Park. So Linkin Park was probably the first one, and then I listened to Alexis on Fire. Alexis on Fire was how I found post-hardcore. And then from Alexis on Fire, I found, like Rosa. And back then it was all like fucking, the digital stuff was like LimeWire. It was like, Napster, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And digital music wasn't really a thing. Yeah. Until like Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, and all that sort of stuff started coming along. So the only way to really get your music digitally was either rip it off like the CDs that you bought, or to get it off like a torrent site or like a peer-to-peer site. And so for the longest time, I would just download like download that music, and then I would like go out to the store and I'd buy the CD. Because I really had no idea how to rip music off the CD once I bought it. So I would have the physical version, and then I had the CD, and I still do it the same way. I don't do it the same way today. Today, I still have music on my phone, but like I buy it digitally, and then if I want the physical version, I kind of do the opposite now. Actually, I either buy or I use Spotify to get the digital versions of the songs. And then if I really want like a physical version of that CD. for sentimental value, I don't even like, I got a CD player in my car and stuff, but I just like, it's no point in using it now when I've got Bluetooth or like you got like Apple CarPlay now and all that sort of shit. So it's like, there's really no reason for me to have a physical version of a piece of media except for sentimental value, or like vinyl. Like vinyl's really big again now, but I don't have a vinyl player at the moment. So I don't really play my vinyls either. I just keep them because I like having a big form of their album artwork, and then vinyls are just a cool form of physical media.
Hell yeah. I was actually going to try and buy an album today, but you only made 100 CDs, so I was like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
we want to make more, but if we're making more, okay, so it costs about 600 Australian dollars to make to print 100 CDs, right?
That's a lot of money.
My process for thinking is that if I'm going to spend that much money, I might as well wait until we've got a bit more revenue behind us and just go and make vinyls anyway, right? So I'm not saying that we are, but I want to make them down the road when we start getting. I think Odyssey has just hit the profit mark for like where the amount that it costs to make compared to where we begin to see profits from the album. So I think now that I think like I spent like about almost $10,000 to make that album. Which is a fucking lot, thinking back on it. I'm like, holy shit, did I spend that much money? Like inclusive of marketing, inclusive of all that sort of stuff, like paying to put it up on Dreambound, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, like I think we've just hit the point where we start to see profits from Odyssey. So now we will start being able to, depending on what profits we get, if it keeps going consistently, we will be able to put that money aside to, like spend on making vinyls and all that sort of stuff. But that my way of consuming music now is basically, it's done like a 180. I used to buy the physical version first, and then I used to download it or rip it so I could have it on my phone. But yeah, now I use Spotify, or I just download it to my phone and I just have it wherever I go, and then I buy the CD for sentimental value. And put it up on like a nice display, have all of them in your room. It just looks cool. So yeah, that's I think a lot of people have started to come around to that way of thinking as well. People that were in this scene and kind of had that way of thinking about music back in like the 2010s. I think that is the main thing with music. Like if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to get left behind, especially not just with listening, but also with making music. If you're not listening to the people that are actually like setting the trends and telling you what the kind of like what way the market is going with how people are consuming music and how people are how people are listening in this day and age, and you're kind of just set in your ways thinking like, no, I was here in 2010. I know how to put music out. I know what people want. Like it's not going to work. It's just the world is changing every day, and if you're not willing to learn how to do new things, like you're not going to get any footing in this current climate for music. And just to add on to that, like in terms of marketing for music, I don't know if Bring Me the Horizon are a signed band or if they're independent. I think they're signed probably.
Yeah, they're signed.
Yeah, so they're a big inspiration for me in terms of how to market your band, because they do it almost flawlessly. Like they know how to do it almost better than anyone. Just in terms of how you should be handling your merch, how you should be handling like your social media, how you should be handling the content that you post to that social media, like the videos, how you should be handling song releases. Like I watch that shit like a hawk. So I've been learning a lot just from how they tease out songs, how they how they will how they were doing like the behind the scenes sort of stuff of how they're like writing songs. Like I've been doing Twitch streams of like writing new Galleons and Valiant Hearts stuff. So like even though I have a much smaller, like infinitesimally small audience compared to Bring Me the Horizon, those marketing techniques and like I still do it for fun as well. It's not just all about marketing. I like recording songs on stream, but it also adds to the hype that you can sort of generate around your music. Like if you're just putting it in front of everyone as much as you can, whether that's like a live stream or like working on it in a video or like a behind the scenes sort of thing, or just kind of reminding people that you're there and that you're working on stuff is always going to be the best thing that you can do for your band. Doesn't mean that you need to kill yourself every day to be making sure you remind people that you exist. Like that's not what I mean. Because you're gonna get burnt out. You're gonna hit a point where you just feel like you just want to leave social media for fucking ever and you don't want to come back, right? Mm-hmm. The goal is to not hit that point. Like with Valiant Hearts, we released Odyssey. We posted, like, we did a bit of PR after the album came out for like a few weeks or a few months, maybe like 2 or 3 months. And then we've gone quiet, because you don't want to hit that burnout. You want to kind of promote things here and there. You want to like say thank you to people for like listening and stuff. But at the same time, you don't want to, if you're posting about your music every day to people that maybe like already listen to you and all that stuff, and people that follow you, like, unless you've been gone for years, they're not going to forget that you exist. That if they're listening to you on their, Spotify or Apple Music or whatever daily, like we have 65,000 listeners for Valiant Hearts. I know people are listening to us, so I don't need to remind them every day that we exist and push our shit on them. So that's my point of thinking anyway. And I also don't like to be on social media all the fucking time. So I only really post when there's something to be said, and when we need to put out music. And that's worked for us so far. So I don't really see a reason to, kind of stress myself out more or about having to post every day or every 2 days or even every week. Like a lot of people do. And yes, some bands that do that might be more successful than, we are, or even, just in general, because they're getting more eyeballs. But at the same time, you have to sacrifice your own time to be able to keep that up. And I'm in a point in my life where I don't want to sacrifice, my personal time, or like, I don't want to sacrifice all my personal time or dedicate all my personal time to just marketing. And it really does become a burden at some point, and you don't want that to happen. So I'm very happy with right now how things are, and I'm not looking to really mess with that. But yeah, it's, again, going back to, if you're an independent artist, you always want to be looking at other artists who are doing it better than you. That's the most important thing in terms of marketing, to be looking at. Always be researching what they're doing, how they're doing it. It's much more informative than you think. Even if you're just following their social media and just like, taking mental notes on like, oh, they post that, they posted that for this reason. It got this sort of response. It's almost like educational without you realizing it's educational, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, you strike me as a guy who's constantly like learning and wanting to see what's going on. Just if it's not for your own learning, it's for the band, and it's just for moving forward. Exactly.
And that's pretty much what the last 5 years have been. Like, I started off knowing not knowing nothing about marketing until I actually came into my actual full-time job in around 2017, I think. So those first like 2 years where I was in a band, I had no clue about marketing, no clue about writing music in general. And so yeah, it's just a constant learning process. For anyone out there that knows nothing about marketing or knows nothing about like musical composition or notation, and you still want to be a musician, just fucking go for it. It doesn't matter. Like you can keep learning as you're making the music, as you're working on stuff. Just like all that matters is that you're constantly trying to pick up new things and not getting, what's the word? Not getting, not feeling bad about, or when something doesn't go exactly how you want it to go, or something, a piece of music doesn't come out the exact way you imagined it. you're always going to just want to learn and grow from that experience. And
That's right.
that's exactly what the last 5 years have been for us. Like, we've had ups and downs all the time, but in the end, it's like, if you can actually get to a point where you're putting out what you want to put out, and you know, you're learning what you want to learn, and then you're applying that learning process to your music or your band or your brand or whatever it is you're trying to construct. You know, it's just like, yeah, don't get disheartened when one small thing or one release doesn't go your way. That's probably the moral of any story about being in a band. But yeah, I probably spend a lot of time talking about Valiant Hearts, but with Galleons, we released an album, Metropolis, in the 20th of January or something like that, 25th of January or something like that this year. And it's already been 5 months. That's insane.
It's flying, right?
Yeah, dude.
Holy shit. Oh my God. But yeah, we had another entire album written before that was even released. We are now in the maybe not middle, maybe like the very early stages of producing that album. So it's 10 tracks, and it's very much inspired by Emarosa, self-titled. So that's my personal favorite and one of Max's personal favorites ever. Like that, for me, that album is flawless. Emarosa has two, maybe not all their albums are good. Look, or even the albums with Bradley are great. But for me, like Emarosa Relativity and Emarosa Self-Titled are like the just gold standards of post-hardcore. I don't know, they're just flawless albums in my opinion. And for Galleons, I always try to separate Galleons very far from Valiant Hearts, because Valiant Hearts is very kind of like already inspired by that sort of post-hardcore style, like Hands Like Houses, Emarosa, Of Machines. You know, that it's a very specific style. It's got a very specific sound that people that have listened to those bands will pick up on immediately, right?
Right,
and
exactly.
Galleons has always been very specifically oriented to the swancore scene and the Dance Gavin Dance sort of scene. And you know, when people hear Galleons music, they go, okay, that sounds like Dance Gavin Dance, or it's similar to Dance Gavin Dance. I kind of want to blur those lines a little now. I'm not looking to fuck with our formula in any way. I think we have something good going. I don't want to, you know, throw a curveball at the people that listen to our music and go like, you know, here's a fucking R&B record.
You should do an R&B record just for fun.
What's it called? I've been listening to like a lot of Jamiroquai lately, and I've just been
nice.
I fucking love
Nice.
Jamiroquai.
Very cool.
And I showed it to Max. Showed it to Max like 2 days ago. It's the first time he'd ever heard Jamiroquai. And then like the day later, he wrote it like a Jamiroquai song, which was really cool. Yeah, I want to blur those lines between the bands a little bit. I want Valiant Hearts to kind of go into a bit more of like not a proggy direction, but like a direction where we can feel like we can be a bit more weird with what we're doing in Valiant Hearts while keeping it very consistent. And then at the same time, I want Galleons to feel like it doesn't need to be so weird all the time, and it can go in a bit more of like a catchy, hook-oriented, less chaotic direction. So I kind of want to, I don't know, maybe like not flip things around for both bands and like, you know, turn one band into the other for any reason. They both consist of different people that have different ideas of what music they want to make. And I respect both, but with Galleons and this new album that we're currently producing and recording guitars for right now, actually, COVID actually threw a bit of a spanner in the works for that, where we had to stop recording guitars for about the last 2 months. But we actually do have one full song done for this next album, which I've shown to a few people, and they've said like, oh yeah, it's like kind of a little bit like reminiscent of Valiant Hearts just because you're the vocalist, but it also has like a very, very heavy Emarosa self-titled vibe to it, which is great. That's like the exact response that I wanted to hear. Without feeling like it's too like ripping off that album too much. It feels very Galleon still. It has like a lot of the quirks that we put into our music already that have already been established, but it has that sort of, you know, Emarosa self-titled post-hardcore sort of vibe to it, rather than a more swancore or mathcore sort of vibe. It's, I guess if I had to explain it, it's like more of like a if you know the band Dayseeker, it's a little bit more of like a sad vibe, I guess. A bit more of a darker vibe, especially in comparison to Metropolis, the album that we released in January. So yeah, a little bit of information on the new music for this album. We are working with the same producer for this next Galleons album that we worked with for Odyssey. So my friend Roman, who fully produced Odyssey, vocal mix, instrumental mix. The only thing that he's not doing this time is the mastering. The mastering for this new album is being, depending on what scheduling we can get for him, will be being mastered by Chris Crummett, who does the production for Dance Gavin Dance. And we're very excited about that, because his mastering is, like, he's mastered a lot of post-hardcore bands even previous to us, and it always just ends up putting that extra level of polish on the mix, and on the album as a whole. So we're super excited to finally like get him all the tracks, and I'm personally excited we are personally excited just to hear how Roman handles the rest of these songs, because the first song sounds fucking phenomenal and has like this great full sound that sounds modern, but at the same time sounds like a 2010s post-hardcore album. So it's like, it's all I could have asked for with this new album. And I think people that are into Galleons will be happy to know that there are still like the swancore sort of style songs that are on the album that are a bit more, chaotic, but at the same time have this level to them that is like a sort of like darker sound, but at the same time has those Emarosa vibes, both in the vocals and the instrumentation. And we're also trying out a few new things that might there's a few passages in some of the songs that are like inspired by like Tool. So there's like a bridge in one song that's like this weird like Tool inspired bridge. So yeah, there's a lot of weird shit that's still going on in this album, but I think you'll find that when it's released, it'll be a very consistent package that will be that, like you said, you listen to it front to back and you get it. You like it's one contained sort of thing like Odyssey was. But yeah, it's probably if I had to pick, this new Galleons album, I think, is the best work I've ever done as a vocalist, and in terms of melody writing as well, which I'm very happy about. Like even better than on Odyssey.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Like, because those albums are just phenomenal. I don't think I've been able to like get about how impressive they've been, how much they've kind of hit me recently, because they got me in the perfect time. But we'll get to talk about that later. Me and Joey are actually going to do some reviews a little later on, and this week we'll be talking about your albums. So I'm looking forward to see what it's just to get it out there more.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me know when you guys want to do that, because I'm a fucking motor mouth. I'll talk for fucking ever.
Hey, no worries. This is your time, man. We're here to learn about you, what you're doing. Like, shit, that's what it's about, right? Understanding how the band came together. Like how, really interesting to know, background in marketing. People can pick and choose and, understand maybe some stuff that they can do as a band. Also just the insanity that you guys haven't even met as a band. That just blows my mind.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting 5 years. I will say that, and it's crazy to think that it's been 5 years already. It feels like, because like in 5 years you would think that a band would release, like maybe like three, if they're a very consistent band, they would release like 3 to 4 albums, maybe like one album a year if they're very insistent on doing work. But with us, no, we've released. I mean, I have released as 2 bands, we have collectively released 4 albums in 5 years.
That's ambitious.
So we released Wanderlust in originally it was released in July maybe of 2018, and then I think 2 weeks later after it was released, we got hit up by We Are Triumphant Records, and they wanted to sign us for a 3-year deal. And we looked at that very, very carefully, and we said, yeah, okay, you guys have a good following. I think it was we came into some difficulties a little later, but they had like when I first looked over it all, I was trying to be very smart about it, trying to make sure that it was a good step for us. Had a good number of followers, so we thought, okay, these guys will be able to get our name out there more, and it'll all work out. And so we started doing that, and then like we had a manager assigned to us and stuff like that. And we were told like, all right, you guys need to like post consistently, like one post a day or every 2 days. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, you're doing it this way. Like, it's kind of like what my thought process was against almost.
Without a doubt, right? Everything that you wanted was just not there.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, oh, okay, so you kind of want me to, hold the band out on social media a bit, not to diss on bands that do that, but like it wasn't for me. I felt like I was kind of like pushing our shit a bit too hard at that point. Like I was like, okay, I don't need to post that often. People aren't going to forget that we exist because I don't post once every 3 days or 2 days. So it definitely helps posting once a day or once every 2 days if you're trying to release something, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. Whereas like if you post something like, 3 months down the road and say, hey, guess what's coming up? Then people get excited again.
Exactly. And then from there, you're in the marketing run. Like you're in the point where you've announced something. You need to start reminding people all the fucking time about it. Because otherwise it's not going to go as good as possible. But when we were trying to re-release, they wanted to re-release the album. They wanted to re-release Wanderlust. And I'm like, as a person in a marketing background, I was like, that is a fucking bad idea. Do not do this. Like, do not make us remarket it for our small audience that already knows that this thing exists and that it has been released. Don't make us do it. And like, no, you guys are like, we'll reach a new audience. We'll like find more people. And then, long story short, we got kicked out of the label because they didn't listen to me. And I said, this won't work. I don't think it'll go as well as you think it's going to go. And the album, the re-release fell flat. It did not work. So they kicked us off the label. Rightfully so. The album did not go to their expectations, which I mentioned that it wouldn't. But it felt very kind of, it left a very sour taste in my mouth because they now keep ownership of that album. Mm. So it's just, I want to buy it back off them for sure. Because then we can do like a remaster of it. We can do whatever the hell we want with it. But as of right now, they still own the masters to Wanderlust. So, there's actually been a question that we've been getting asked recently about like all this like DMCA and Twitch stuff going on about like songs getting taken down by like not content, sorry, like the songwriter holders or the label holders of the songs because copyright. We've been asked like, oh, is our music good to use on like streams and on videos and stuff? And like, I've absolutely said that I don't agree with any of the DMCA stuff or any of the copyright stuff that's really ever gone on. And as long as they're using our music under free use, they're not trying to like resell our music or remarket our music as their own. We have absolutely no problem with people using our music for anything. Whether it's a live stream or whether it's like a video on YouTube as background music, whatever the hell they use it for, it only acts as a vessel to get our music to more people. And when a label or I understand the politics behind the whole copyright thing and that, it's in a label sense or a legal sense, it's someone using someone else's music without permission or legal recourse to be able to use it. But as someone that manages two bands and someone that understands how all this stuff works, it is so fucking stupid that labels, I understand it if it's a huge label and they're just like, have these legal people on staff to be able to just, go, nope, you can't use that. Nope, you can't use that. But if you're a smaller band, do not strike or DMCA take down anyone using your music because it only serves as a way to silence them sharing your music to other people, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you do it? If it's someone like that takes your music without legal permission to like say use in like a fucking TV show or anything like that, that's actually being, made with a budget or like that they plan to profit off, then it becomes a legal issue. But until then, you don't have to make it a legal thing and you don't have to take that music down. And I just think it's really unjustifiably done, because it acts as a way for a lot of the time people on YouTube to, especially if it's only being used as background music, it acts as like a small band's way to kind of go to claim that whole video. Like, especially if it's like a YouTuber that's like kind of bigger, maybe like 10,000 subscribers or something like that, and they're using it as background music, and they might just go, nope, that's my ad revenue now. I'm like, you're hurting someone else's livelihood that is trying to earn money for themselves, and all they're doing is like using your music as background music. Like, you're a very little part of that video.
Right. It comes across as very petty.
It does. It's very, very petty, and I don't agree with it at all. But yeah, back to the label thing just quickly. Yeah, so we got booted off the label. They said, like, you know, it didn't perform as expected. So we're not gonna continue our relationship. It was all handled very amicably, and there was no bad blood. It just left a sour taste in my mouth that, you know, they got to keep the rights to. You know, it all went down within like a 3-month period. So it was a very, very short-lived relationship. And yeah, it just made me a bit sour that was the way that it was handled. And that they, you know, got to keep the rights to the music. But after that, we actually had a new song ready to give them to release as a single. And that was our cover of Devil Trigger, which we did because, you know, me and Igor are big video game fans. I love the DMC series personally. So I'm like, oh fuck, this song that came out for the official game is fucking amazing. It would be amazing to cover. Yeah, we were like, and it's weird that all of our covers that we've done have been video game covers, but like,
yeah, it's crazy. It's weird. Just today, I downloaded Devil May Cry 5. I finally hit that.
Dude,
up.
it's such a good game. It's such a good game. It's like it's a very contained sort of game. It's like a very, you know, it's kind of short, but like for what it is, it's fucking incredible. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love
the
playing
demo.
it.
It's just so intense, man, and that's really cool. That you guys incorporate that into music and your imagery as well too. Like, I feel like it's very inspired by a lot of, you know, potential for video game work and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really awesome to see that we it wasn't intentional by any means, but we picked up a whole new demographic of people that had no idea who we were. They were just fans of Devil May Cry. So we released that song at a very good time. We released it when the game was released. So we released it alongside maybe like a day or a week after the game was released. We were in that hot seat for finding that exact time it should have been released in that exact demographic that would listen to it, right? So what happened with the label was they booted us off the label. We had Devil Trigger ready to show them and ready to give them, right? And keep in mind, looking at Spotify right now, on Spotify alone, Devil Trigger has almost 900,000 streams, right? So almost 1 million streams alone, just as a single, which is fucking blows my mind.
That's impressive.
It's insane. We were ready to give them this song. They would have gotten 50% of the profits, and we would have gotten 50%. So since then, Devil Trigger alone has paid for the whole production of Odyssey.
Wow.
So
That's incredible.
Devil Trigger allowed me to pay for the production to Odyssey. If I would have given this song to the label, Odyssey might not even exist. We might have gone somewhere completely different. We might have done an EP instead because we didn't have enough money to make a full album. But yeah, for people that say like that's the one good thing about, or not the one good thing, but like a very good thing about if you can take off as an independent artist, that you get to keep 100% of your profits, and that allows you to make music much quicker and much more easily and find into a higher degree of quality. So like none of our music, our profits from music have really ever gone to any of like personal purchases or bills, anything like that. Most of the profits that come from our music just go straight back into making more music, because there isn't a huge amount of profit, but there is enough there to collect over a long period of time to kind of, you know, put it away and go like, all right, this is our budget for our next release, right? So really all the way that I live is like to pay bills and stuff. That all comes from my full-time job. All the money that we get from music just goes straight back into music, and that's how I like it. Or merch, or like anything related to the band costs. So it keeps us being able to produce music on a very nice schedule, while also, you know, keeping us employed and keeping us, you know, we both still have full-time jobs, but being able to pay our bills and not have to worry about putting money from our jobs into music. Because when you have to start cutting out money from like your bills and stuff to be able to afford to like make a song or anything like that, then you're really like kind of walking on a knife's edge in terms of handling like your financial situation and financial health. Because if you're not careful and you start to like dip into like savings too much, or your weekly like salary or whatever you're getting paid, like it just becomes a real scary situation. And it's kind of what I was like when I first started work at my job, and I was putting like a lot of my money from work into music, and having very little left over to just pay for my bills. And it was a very scary time, because I'm like, all right, I got to put that much towards music to pay for this song. I got to put this much of my weekly pay to, marketing that song. And just to be clear, the guys from Galleons, they pay for like stuff on their end for like recording guitars and all that stuff. So, but in Russia, the economy is much worse than it is in the US or over here in Australia. So it's much harder for them to, pay $400 or $300 for the cost of one song for production. So I front that money, and then basically, so I kind of work as like I guess like a not a label, but like in that sort of sense for like both bands, like an intermediary where I'll front that money to be able to produce the songs. And then once the songs start earning a profit, I'm paid back that money. And then once I'm paid back that money, then we split the profits evenly between us all. So that's kind of how it works. And everyone's cool with that. We do it that way. But yeah, very important if you're an independent band. Make sure you take care of your finances first, because it can spiral out of control very quickly. And you're always going to get excited by wanting to work with like the high quality producers and stuff. But sometimes if you're just starting out, you need to just start off slow. Start off with someone that's still like a good producer, maybe like, not like a big name, someone that can do it for a reasonable price. There's plenty of them out there. And even if it's not the highest quality release that you imagined, just go slow, take it easy, and then just see where you get to. That's like that's another good recommendation that I can probably give for just trying to pace yourself as an artist.
Totally.
Don't unless you have the money and you're willing to, like, you have a good job and you can, afford to front the money for like a full-on high quality beefy album for production, and your songwriting's good and all that. Fucking go for it as your first album. Like my friend Phil, who was the ex-vocalist for Time the Valuator came out of the gate with like a fucking awesome debut album in 2018, I think it was. And like that is like one of the best debut albums from like a progressive metal or like just like an artist in this genre in a long time. Like we put Wanderlust out in the same year for Valiant Hearts, and like that album like fucking just eclipsed like everything for me. Sorry, not Wanderlust. Time the Valuator's album like eclipsed like everything that year for me in terms of this genre. Like they obviously had the money to do it. They had the songwriting there. They had all the skill to be able to know that it would be like a great album. If you have that and you're an independent artist and you're able to kind of make that decision in terms of money and in terms of knowing that you've written songs that are going to really gel well with people, then yeah, like absolutely go for it. Just make sure that you can do it, because if it falls flat, then you're in trouble, because you might have just wasted like 12 grand. So you really need to be sure of yourself, and you really need to,
I'm totally hearing, just go for it, right? You found that balance. We've learned a lot about the band in general, everything, the history, and we were blessed to just have you here and tell us about what's moving forward, what's going on. I think we've taken many hours of your time now, but before we let you go, what we want to do is go a little wacky, go a little wild here with our favorite segment that we integrate into here. It's a little thing called Quick Hits. It's where we get the opportunity to ask you some goofy little yes or no type short answer questions, and we get to know a little bit more about you. And it's just fun. It's just fun. So don't overthink it, man. All right. But this is Quick Hits with Tom Byrne, Australian style. Ready, Joey? You're firing this off, buddy.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So first one, summer or winter?
Winter.
What the fuck is Vegemite?
Vegemite is like if I don't know what Vegemite is, but I like it.
You like it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would win in a fight, a koala or a kangaroo?
Oh, a kangaroo would kick that koala's ass.
Okay. Is Crocodile Dundee a bitch?
No, I have to stay to national loyalty and say no.
Is Foster's really Australian for beer?
I got no idea. I don't drink beer, unfortunately.
Is Kylie Minogue overrated?
Oh fuck no, Kylie Minogue's awesome.
Do you know my Australian friend Void Stare?
Voidster?
Void Stare.
Nah, don't.
Okay, you
will.
That's right, you will. What's the deal with that Sydney Opera House? Why is it so fucking pointy?
I don't know. They probably just dropped an egg and they were like, yeah, that looks good.
Can you throw a boomerang?
I cannot throw a boomerang. Those are things that, believe it or not, those things are hard as fuck to throw, and they do not come back on the first try. Like, unless you're really good with them, they will. Yeah, I've lost. I think like in grade 4, they made us throw boomerangs, and I lost a lot of boomerangs.
Yeah, man, that's a gift I ask everybody to bring back when they go to Australia for me.
Yeah.
I've broken mine every single time. It just goes right to the fucking ground.
Yeah.
Where's the worst place you've performed at? I mean, I didn't know you guys hadn't really met before, so
I've never performed, never played live.
that's crazy, man. That is wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Are all Australians born with a surfboard?
I wish you could just. I could made it. You make a good buck if you were born with the surfboard. You could just sell that shit for like $500. No, unfortunately.
Did you know that wombat deposits are square poop?
Yes. Wombats poop square, and it's fucking weird. It's bizarre. You go to a zoo and you see a wombat shit out of square. It's like if you don't know what you're getting into for going to an Australian zoo, you're gonna have a really interesting time.
That's wild.
It's hilarious. Have you ever punched a great white?
Well, I've never punched a great white. I hate the ocean. I would not go anywhere near a great white, let alone the beach.
Fair enough.
Okay, this one's asked to every single person. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Oh shit! I know that I've argued over this. I've argued over this before. Oh no! What did I say? I don't remember. I'm gonna go with. Fuck. No, I'm gonna say no. Okay,
whatever.
This is my reasoning. Hold on.
Okay, go for it.
I need to justify my reasoning. It's because a sandwich, usually, the bread is cut through the middle on both sides. A hot dog bun does not cut through both sides.
No, right, I will send you an article that will prove you wrong and smarten your ass up.
All right, please do.
What's the biggest spider you've ever seen?
Oh fuck, we get I personally, where I live, we don't get a lot of spiders, which I'm very thankful for. But the biggest spider that I've seen, I think I had a huntsman like in my bathroom once. That was just like this. These things are non-poisonous, non-venomous, non-threatening. By the way, they're fine. They're creepy as shit.
Yeah,
but they won't hurt. But they won't hurt you. It was about the size of my palm, so like the size of a normal human palm. About that, maybe a little bigger, because its legs just extend to like a long way. Yeah.
Don't like it.
But they're not common. Like they're much less common than people think. Same with snakes, same with all that stuff. If you live in like a city in Australia or you live in like a suburban area, you'll barely see any of them.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Good to know. Did you know that Australia's richest woman, Gina Reinhart, earns $1 million every 2 hours?
Jesus Christ. No, I did not. That's nuts.
Who is this woman and is she single?
I've never heard of her, but now I need to meet her. Yeah.
Galleons or Valiant Hearts?
Oh fuck, that's mean.
Yeah, I know.
It's mean.
We sometimes ask people what children they prefer, and this is probably similar.
Exactly.
It's kind of like choosing children. It's very hard. Look, I prefer both for different reasons, and I have to say I can't choose, but I think just for loyalty's sake, I've been with Galleons longer, so I have to say Galleons just in terms of loyalty.
Respect,
there you go.
Respect. And finally, do you hate Australian stereotypes?
No, I fucking love Australian stereotypes, especially the ones from The Simpsons. They're fucking hilarious.
With the big boot. Kick that.
Yeah, big boot and the beer ear, coffee.
Beer
I love that
ear.
shit. No, I love that shit. It's
yeah,
not
I know. us for Canadians too. It's just fun, man. Our stereotypes, we have a good time with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
if anyone finds it offensive for any reason, it's like, chill out a bit.
Exactly, man. Tom, we appreciate it, man. I think we got to learn a lot. Much. I'm so stoked that you came on because, like I said, I just got to hear the music, and instantly I was like, oh my God, let's fucking talk to this guy. And you were like, no worries, mate, we'll do it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, I'm a very easy person.
Awesome. That's great, man. Well, before we let you go, where do we go to support the band and buy stuff, listen to you, all that good stuff?
All right, so I'll make this very quick. So just pretty much Spotify, Apple Music, streaming helps us the most. We don't have any merch at the moment, unfortunately, but we will soon. If you want to support us, just Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, get in touch with us there. I'm always there to answer shit, any questions you might have. It's really it. Just keep streaming our stuff. That really helps us the most. Believe it or not, buying albums in this day and age actually, isn't as good as streaming anymore.
That's crazy.
Not all the time anyway. Sometimes merch is the best way to do it, but we don't have any yet. Once we get merch, just fucking buy the merch. That'll help the most. But hit us up if you want to. Always happy to talk. And thanks for having us, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having the band in general. But thanks for having me.
Loved it, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, man.
Gotcha.
Peace. Wowzers.
Tom Byrne, Valiant Hearts, the Galleons.
I think we learned everything we needed to and then some, man.
I love that guy.
Wow. What a guy. He does it all, man. He hasn't even played live. That is insane to me.
Yeah, I can't believe it. I have the utmost respect for people that are in what I will call internet-only music projects that can come out with something like that, having not met, not establishing any sort of chemistry from being person to person. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, needless to say, Corona has not stopped them because they've been doing the same shit they were before.
Yeah, exactly. They started doing that before. Exactly. So wow,
fantastic, man.
Yeah,
great.
That was awesome.
I love it. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess now it's time to end it and go review these albums and let people know why we like them so much more.
Cow.
Peace out, motherfuckers.